So here we go. Really, the idea here is that you've got a flow going on. The results of one step feed the next, and this is the idea of the query bus. In the bus, and we talk about data buses and stuff, and usually it's our hardware discussion. I'm just being kind of cutesy with this and saying you can get on or off the bus anytime you want. So we're going to support saved results at any point along the way. There's going to be the idea of a multi-DB repository for combined results. So you'll see that when you combine results, we're actually going to create documents, okay, a new kind of document that is processed as part of the query. Well, where do you have to choose? I can't make that decision. You have to choose where you want that data, and that'll be one of the design points. At every point, there'll be dual endpoints. That is, you can either save your results and reuse them, or you can turn them to the APIs. Or both. We're actually taking votes on this. Do you want both? I want results and I want you to save it for the future. Okay, that's not too hard to do, but as you'll see, we had the earlier discussion about the use of disk space to do this. Well, it's not free, so this is one of the discussions here. And I keep saying this, but I can't say it enough. Really, we're going to use what exists in new ways. Domino facilities will be used for implementation. We're going to write some new code. I'm not saying that, but the engine part of it is pretty much in place. You've used it forever. There's nothing new in there. We're just pressing it into new usage. Okay, and likewise, all the work you've done in your design elements and sub elements, we're going to try to use those everywhere we can. So I want to honor the work done by people. And there's a reason you wrote all that formula language code, because it's useful to you. It's business logic. Well, let's use it. That's the idea. Okay. Now to save result discussion. So you may know, and I gave this question live, at the Collabsphere presentation. I said, why is Google so fast? Okay, does anyone know why? How I can do so? The idea and the way they do it is they pre-solve all the queries. Now they have the luxury of kind of stale data. So the website, they don't change that often, so they can keep the results of every query in memory. Okay, so people say, well, why aren't you fast like Google? And the answer is because you can't afford the memory. You can't. Okay, so that's how they do it. They save results. Okay, and that's an interesting discussion that you have with people, and they don't really. What do you mean? I have to buy memory? That's how they do it. So, but it's a good way to go, and we can't get away with that, of course. People want our results to be refreshed. They want it common. They want it up to date and refreshed. So the idea is we would save results. Okay, those who are familiar at all with the CAPI of Domino know about ID tables. ID tables are a very compressed way to store a set of node IDs. They are bound to an instance of the database, not to replica ID. No, it is an instance of the database. Node IDs don't port across replicas. So the idea is we keep these around. We will cache the results the same way as we did with the same mechanism used for the inboard design catalog will be used here. So they will, if a query takes an hour to run, I've never made that happen, but let's say you took it as a challenge to write a query that took an hour to run, and you said, well, I want to store these, which gives you a fast way to reference that set again. And the
challenge accepted.
Yes, okay. I don't want to advertise that, but there it is. That you can certainly, if you want to, write a challenge that will write a query that will take that long. The idea, though, is that you can save because DQL provides a named results mechanism. You can just bring that set of documents into the query like that instantaneously. Likewise, to refresh them is just not that hard. Domino's forever, its main query, its main processing is what we call since time processing. NSF search, which is underneath DB search in LotusScript, takes a since time, is very fast to find out what has changed since last time. So the idea is we run the query overnight, whatever it took one time, save the results, and refresh them going forward. That's the idea. We're not doing folders. We're not doing views for this, not for this type 1. Okay, this is just an ID table with a query that we store in perpetuity or until we throw it away. And the discard rate needs some discussion as well. Okay, type 2, aka views, says, okay, now, and this is a discussion, again, I said I was going to talk about views. Here's the beginning of that discussion. Views have always been query results. They have been. And the way they have been that way is because you've run a set of formula language to select documents. That's you're saying, I'm writing this query, I want to save the results. Of course, you can also control the presentation, what you're actually showing. So computed columns are part of that as well. Okay, so they've always been that way. Nothing new here, as I say. This is an existing facility. But what is new is that DQL can be used as view selection criteria. Okay, so we're saying, views, yes, they do store data itself, actual values that are sorted by this way or that way. And we're going to store it, as I showed you in the create index demo. We know how to do this, right? It's not a mystery how to do this. So the idea is you would say sort by or some criteria and save. We would generate a view with those criteria, and it's done automatically for you. And this can be done with a single or multiple database results. That is, you can say, I want to be able to join, or any other way, federate database groups, that kind of thing, and I want to sort them accordingly. I want to pull data out and sort them. And this lets you do that as well. Okay? So these are created. These are dynamic. They are refreshed, as all views are, right? All views can be refreshed. They can be deleted. They can be recreated. Okay, so that's basically the type 2. So the type 1 doesn't have data, it just has IDs. Type 2 has data. Okay, all right. So just to talk a little bit about save results, they are named, so you can get back on the bus. You can use that name as a shortcut. So as we provided from day 1, the fieldless in, that is the in clause that does not have a field, says I want you to use this as a set. So my saved results turns out to be something you can put into DQL. This pulls in type 1 of that. This is type 1 of the saved result set. Pulls it right in very fast. I mean, it just reads the ID table in the memory, and you're in business. And you end it with last name equals Jones here, that kind of thing. They are replicated, both set of results. They are refreshed on demand or on schedule. We haven't really designed this, but the idea, refreshing is Domino. We do this all the time. That's how views happen, right? But you specify them as you will, that refresh behavior. They're discarded, but they're recreatable as well. So recreating them persistently, we'll give you APIs for doing this. The discard rate may use least recently used, LRU, or some other rule that says, I want you to throw away the oldest ones that haven't been used recently, some discard like that. And the bigger point, this is my discussion point with views, okay, the final thing I'll probably say about views is that, why aren't all views dynamic? Well, of course, you have a set of views that people go in all the time in your database. But if your databases are like my databases, the vast majority are never used. They're never used. I've been through these things and looked at what's the usage patterns for 80%, 90% of our views. They haven't been opened in 5 years. Okay, so that says something. Why are they therefore cluttering up the trough on the left of your notes client? Or why are they existing when you can recreate them? We've proven you can recreate them with DXL. I mean, you can just do that. And so discarding them and putting them back, it's not a big deal. So people talk about the space that we might use during this. I said, well, you've got space already. It's already out there. And this is, it's one of those discussions to have. Do you know your views? Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Are views out there? How are your views doing today? And what do you use them for? It's a question that needs to be answered. Have you referenced them at all in a long time? If not, well, guess what? You don't have to have them permanently. And this mechanism, whether you use it or not, shows a behavior that could perhaps replace what you're doing now. Okay. I mentioned that the multi-database results, has a implication of a new set of data. The idea is that you would generate or point. It's your choice what you want to, where you want to store the results. But you're getting data from multiple sources now. So there's a whole bunch of different design points around this one. One of them has to do with security. You know, if you have reader lists on each of 3 documents that participate in a join, well, what do? I think the answer is you enforce them all. Okay, I think that's what the answer is. But things like roles, which are only defined inside of a database, have no meaning anymore. You know, we can't take a role name and port it to a new place, because that is defined as part of the design of a given database. So this is a problem, okay? And we need. I'm looking for some input here to help us out. Okay.
On the note of the readers, could I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So take parts and part orders relationship, just to pick something arbitrary. If there's readers on the orders, on specific orders, and the user in question isn't privy to specific documents, would you treat it like a left outer and just say, well, then we're just only going to retrieve the ones you have and kind of omit the ones you aren't? So it's just like they're not there, the same as it's always been in Domino, or what would the handling be?
Yes. That's the idea. So I think, I mean, this is in design right now, but the idea is that we would, in fact, refresh the reader list. And they change, right? I mean, people, as they go through the process, you might change the reader list. So we have to reflect that in the results here. Yes, you wouldn't be able to see the joined results. Now, this means that we must create these views in the name of the server, by the way, because they have to all be there, but you just wouldn't be able to see them, see? So that's exactly the discussion we're having right now. And I think, yes, the general consensus is I don't want anyone seeing something they can't see. That's why I have reader lists, of course. But now you have 3 sets of reader lists. What happens now? Is it any or all? You know, in other words, we let you if you have access to one of the 3, do you see the whole thing? I don't think so.
No.
You know, you need all 3. That's right. So okay, it's a different behavior. You see, so that's the kind of thing we're talking about. Now, you know, document security is beautiful. It's one of the bread and butter facilities that Domino gives you. So how do we therefore bring that forward into this brave new world? People don't want to think about it. I have to think about it. So that's one of those things, and we'll talk about this. I mean, this is not going to be done in a vacuum. Okay, so I'm including my resident paranoid people like Dave Kern. He's working with us on this. So we have security people, of course, in Domino who don't want me doing anything. But no, as a joke. But it's to involve them and get their input is absolutely paramount in this. So just to bring up a problem. So you know this is deep. And I don't want to make this a trivial thing. It's not. Okay. So anyway, that's how it works. So how do we combine? That's the next thing. So joins and unions in SQL. I've written SQL engines. I understand how it works. I've used it. I've written it. I've written the engines. So I understand basically how to do a join. What happens there? The different ways, the different strategies for joining. And joins are a very important part of what Domino will offer here, of course. But Domino offers more. These are classic Domino relationships. So we're calling it combine. I'm just saying we're not going to call it join because join is a subset. It's an important subset. But for instance, does it make sense to do a lookup, a full text search lookup? One of the things, you know, there's a set of keywords I want to find, documents that match the keywords, grouped by the keywords, that kind of thing. And I want to be able to find those. That's a full text search. Doc links are one we've had forever, where people, if a human being goes through the trouble to create a link between 2 documents, well, that establishes some kind of relationship. I'm not sure how important it is in the app space, but you know, it is of interest that people thought to. This is how Google works, by the way. That's how it ranks documents. It says in fact, what was the incoming doc link space? What is the anchor text of links coming into this web page? And if there are more of them, it gets ranked higher. So that's how it ranks. That's page ranking. And there are parent-child functionalities in Domino, response trees and categories. and I think we have to understand what that means in cross databases. Categorization, which is in SQL terms, group by. We have to support that. It's part of the real requirement space. Okay, some pictures. So this really shows us the end result, and I'll go into different parts of this. But the topmost left three, the decubable execute stored results. This is result type 1 I'm talking about, and the refreshing is in there. So you see that, and going left, bottom left, is that same thing showing up. You got multiple of these coming in. They can, of course, you can just take a single database query, and you can sort of aggregate, do all that work on a single database, and either or both return the results to the application, or store type 2, which is a view, in a database result. Okay, in that case, it's a single database query. That's all it is. And you're done. Okay, you're essentially done that. So in the other case, though, I'm combining a bunch of those single databases into a multi-database aggregate. So the green, this is a classic flowchart. It's a sort method that goes into things. We're pulling them all together and we're aggregating results and producing. This is the case I've been talking about, where you have multiple database results showing up somewhere else. You either return them, and by the way, and we're going to, JSON is a big part of what the results coming back. It is the lingua franca of the web right now, so it is what we're going to be doing and producing. Or you store them in a view so other people can look at them as well. And if this is important to use the Notes client, a la Nomad or WebAssembly, that's what you would do. You have to make that decision. Okay, we know we need to supply that capability. Okay, so this is really the whole thing showed up.
So, but you would also, so from that perspective, if I look at it that way, to store like data in multiple DBs result sets, this would mean that we also have not only like dynamic views, we would also have like something like a database. It's a dynamic table that will drop after we used it after a couple of times. You recreate it if you need it later on, or is this something that's also combinable with the idea of, okay, we have these queries up and running, and they will optimize the data, or they will keep it accurate over time. Is this the same
right.
pattern?
Yes, the design is to be able to store these persistently and refresh them. Yes.
Okay.
So today we have the same notion as views have always had, right? Views have always been refreshable, and but of course, what feeds this view is a whole different set of things.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not, so each of the components need to be refreshable, and then the final one is. So yes, that is part of the design, and it's not easy. So that to do that,
we have to take the pain of administrators away, that databases get created, or apps or NSFs get created from another application, or from an application itself, to keep data without them knowing, without them putting ACLs on them, without them maintaining and managing all that stuff.
So this is part of the problem. What the database? I'm talking about we're talking about the lower right repository. What that is a new thing, right? Yep. And what its ACL is, you got to think about that. And the most probable way of doing this is actually to store new documents with a composite set of reader lists, okay, each of which have to be met for you to be able to read the note. That's new processing, okay? You can't do that today.
So if you end the reader list, you're good, right? If you just end them, like if we can consider a Cartesian cross product of two entities and do the relationship, then basically in this combined document, you have to end the readers. If you're not on all the readers for all the documents that are joined, then you can't see it, right?
My security people would insist on that. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't see a downside to that.
No, I don't either. But it's new processing. Well, the downside is the work.
Yeah. Granted. Yeah. I mean, from a security perspective.
So, yeah. Now, my marketing folks don't want. Well, not marketing. People want free things. They always do. Everyone wants free things. So I'm not specifying that. But yes. So we have to put a new processing that goes through each of these reader list and comes back with a set. So yeah, and yeah, so today you can have, of course, multiple readers on a document, multiple reader lists on a document, and the processing is any. It's not all. It's any. So if you're a single database and you have 5 reader lists, if you're in any of those, you can read it, right?
Yeah.
Not true now. This is all different processing. Okay, just make sure you understand the difference. Okay, so let's take this apart a bit. Okay, so let's say we're going to be doing, this is a single database. This is the version 10, version 11 DQL. Okay, what we're going to do is to store the results in query syntax in a very fast retrieval mechanism using that ID table store with a query, and it's refreshable. So the execute the bottom dark blue is a cheap refresh. It does either scheduled or as you open it, whatever we decide. I want you to say it uses a since time, since last, what changed, refresh the thing, and you can use what the so-called fieldless in clause. So document set 1, document set 2, you want to store these results. This is very fast to retrieve. Okay, this in all thing is one of the faster mechanisms in the DQL language. Okay, so that's a single, again, this is without even getting into joining or unioning paradigm. Okay, all right, next. This is now saying, again, we're in single database mode, but we're now saying, look, I want data. Okay, I want you to actually sort and pull out and aggregate data. For a single database, we can still store those results. This is going to be a view. Okay, that's what we're going to be done, and or return to application. So the last stop is up to you. You get off the bus here and store the values. You have an ad hoc query. I just want to return the data. I don't care about storing it in views. That's fine. You don't have to. So that this says I want to be able to return to the application typically a set of JSON that corresponds to the view results, and this may be the last stop for you. Or you store it in a view for perpetuity and be able to go back and look at it, okay? So again, the DQL will be the selection criteria for this view, okay? All right. And then the combined results says I want a bunch of those. I want to take a bunch of those results, and in this case, I'm going to take the single query results. Probably not the view, because you can include columns that are not part of the view, but the ID table part of the view. And I want to be able to pull those in to contains joins, unions, federations, response trees. One of the things we're actively discussing is the notion of a database group, which would be defined outside of DQL, which says I have a set of databases that I want to be able to reference as a single thing for basically using the DQL 11 syntax, saying if they have the same design, right? And I want to be able to get results from all of those databases in one query. Well, okay, we can do that, combining them and storing them any way you want. That's the idea for that one. There's no join, okay, because it's the same data, but it might span months or years, however you partition your data. It's kind of a sharding idea where you just grab data from across all these repositories. Okay, the final aggregation and sort, and final is a funny word because you can do this again, but I'm just for this discussion is the multi-database sort coming in, and you'd sort them and aggregate them any way you want. Again, getting off the bus. Or storing the results in that. And this is the funny new place we're talking about, the reader list we're talking about. This result in the bottom right is the new place, the new database where you store these things. Okay, so that's the picture, and it's quite powerful. So as it uses our since and until processing. This is something you've had forever in Domino. It's how views get refreshed. It's how new mail is found. I mean, there's all kinds of things that use this. It's the bucket, I call it the bucket brigade, part of Domino processing, where Domino has these, it keeps a very good record of what's changed. Is the central way. In one of my blogs, I said, this is done right because, you talk about ways to organize your data. Well, data, as you reference it, today's data and for a month, that's when the hot time happens. That's when you reference most of your data. After it goes out of that month or 6 months, whatever it is, it's across the entire industry, that is a paradigm where you don't really reference the old data as much. That's just data processing. So we did it right, and this is what we're using here. The seamless optimal DQL results processing using the in clause is part of this discussion, and it uses our data modeling. So we're going to allow you to specify formula language components such as form fields or view columns, where you've written this awesome formula language, and make that part of what we sort, right? So make that part of what we produce here, and so you're able to take your document data and construe it any way that makes sense with the business. And that's part of this discussion. We're going to use all the stuff you have in place. Okay, and that's why you wrote it to be used. Okay, so the power tools. This is kind of thing with saying we have this stuff already. It's already there. We already have. You've been building views with a sort package that you've had for 35 years, whatever it is. And I'm not saying it's old, because we're maintaining it all the time. It's up to date and up to speed and getting faster all the time. You've used it to build views for years. We're just going to take it and make that part of something you can call outside the view context. Okay, so you're able to ad hoc sort data. Okay, it sounds like something you're just building this now. Well, we're building it with all the other bells and whistles that are in Domino. Yeah. Okay, so what is planned, and this gives you, just to present this as broadly as possible, how common are notes document collections in your Lotus script or in your Java document collections? How common is that? Okay, well, they're everywhere. Okay, it's one of the central objects in the backend classes. Well, now you have the ability ad hoc, without using a view, to sort them any way you want. Okay, just to give a picture of that. So they get created all kinds of ways. You can now sort them and be able to aggregate them. Everything is offered through DQL. You don't have to have DQL. Okay, this is applied to the document collection object. So it's foundational to the backend classes. Okay, the formula engine, as has been used, is going to be put into use here. We're going to use them mostly by name. That is, it's going to be form name dot field name type of thing. We're not likely to put formula language into DQL, but you can certainly code formula language and reference it, okay, by name, so that developers who don't understand formula language don't have to, right? They can you name your formula field the way that makes sense to them, and they can just use it directly. We're going to use hidden named documents for result storage. This is an existing, you didn't know it was there, did you? Yeah, this is not something we're allowing people to look at. The DXL design element round trip capability, people have long advertised DXL's inability to do round trip. Well, they're actually concentrating on what it's bad at. Okay, what it's really good at is storing certain parts of the design and putting it back in. It's wonderfully round trip for in certain venues. We've seen that views are great examples of that. So there's no reason not to leverage that. The bucket skimming approach, I've talked about that, the bucket brigade, where Domino since time is absolutely as fast as you can reference any database system, as far as I'm concerned. And we're going to use all of the NIF, the Notes Indexing Facility, view handling, but especially find by key and NIF read entries and some of those, the traversal calls. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Without diving into, I can actually show you C code and how it works without doing that. I think I've given you a broad brush of where we're going, and I hope that you see this is power. As I said, my job, my own job description is to make you powerful.
That's awesome.
That's what we're trying to do here with as little code as possible. Let you get as much work done.
Outstanding, John, and thank you kindly. Graham, we got one thing to let every viewer know about as well.
Yes, absolutely. Our Slack channel is becoming more active in 2020. That's where we want to focus some of our time. So we invite everybody to join the conversation there. And the way to get to it is just to go to our homepage at www.c3ug.ca. And there's a link directly off the homepage that lets you join the conversation in Slack.
All right. And as always, please do subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to get notified. It helps us get the monumental views we're getting on this channel. No, we're not, but do it anyway, guys. And Happy New Year and thanks a million.
Thanks again, John.
Thank you.
Glad to help.